So there's some more I still want to get cut out of there because there's rust hiding behind it, and I want to get as much rust out of the inside of this as I can, which is why I still have a little bit more work to do. I'm not 100% satisfied with how clean it is. Obviously way better than it was. I'm glad that I was able to cut this completely open and knock all this stuff out of here. I think just a little bit more work with the needle scaler deep in here, and then I'm going to switch to a wire wheel on my grinder, which is a little scary, but it's hopefully going to knock out some of the stuff that's in the pitted areas, get that scrubbed down, and just grind these little leftover bits of weld and crust so that that's clean and flat. And then I'm going to spray it down with an acid. I have muriatic acid, and I also have some phosphoric acid. I'm not sure which to start with. I've used the muriatic acid in the past on really rusty stuff, and it's cleaned it off amazing. It does a great job. You just, like, it's an acid, so you got to be careful. You want to wear, protection so you don't burn your face off. But being able to kind of brush or spray that on and let it eat this stuff out of here, go back, neutralize it with the water and a baking soda. And then either way, I'm going to end with the phosphoric acid, the metal etch and prep. That'll clean any remaining junk out of here, the rust. And then that actually, you can let dry. The phosphoric acid's supposed to clean and etch. So it leaves a layer to be coated over top. So it leaves kind of like a protective film on the metal. I do plan, when this is all boxed back in and repaired, to do like something like the Eastwood kit. I've seen a lot of people using that and had good luck with it. It's basically a can that you can, with a long little straw, you can either find an existing hole or make a new little hole, run it down the frame and just kind of drag it along, and it sprays the inside. So I think that's a great idea. I'd like to do something to protect this from, rusting out the new stuff. So I'm going to get to that when I get there. Next steps, after this has been all carefully cleaned up, I did go with the cutoff wheel, and I left some real nice clean lines for me to make my template. I'm happy with that. But before I close this off, there are a couple holes right here because it's thin at just the bottom. And I've gone down and kind of, get on the frame, using my better judgment to find out where the troubled areas are and where the good metal is. And it's really mostly just in here where, this was just full of all the flaky rust, and it just kind of sat in its own filth rotting away. So what I'm going to do is, once this is ground flat, I'm going to make a panel, another steel plate that's going to go in here. I'm going to weld the plate to the inside of the frame because the outside looks great. The outside looks great here. There's also the body mount for the cab corner right over here. It's right behind this. So I don't want to get into cutting any of that out or working around that. I want to leave that alone. And the outside of this frame is still in great shape. So prep this, put a plate on the inside. I'll make the template for the outside, and then that'll box all this back in. I'll feel a lot better once that structure's back, because it is a little scary having it all wide open, even though this, it isn't going anywhere. And once that's done, I also have rusting through the bottom in a few spots where it's gone all the way through, and then other spots where it's okay, or it's just got a lot of pitting. I want to get this bottom part of the frame rail out. So luckily up here by this frame, the leaf spring mount to the frame, it's still really solid. There's not any rusting through or anything like that. I want to cut a nice clean line here, and then somewhere down the frame on the bottom, I'll cut out a strip, and then I'll weld that in last. So step one, plate. Step two, box this back in all the way back into about here. And then step three, I'll come back when this is burned all on, and I'll cut this out, and I'll do that in those 3 stages. So next, I'll just show you how I went about making my template. It's not too difficult. Anybody can do it. Wow, just like that. I went and grabbed one of the bigger pieces of cardboard I had laying around to start with, and I took my Sharpie, whatever, marked it out, kept getting it closer and closer, kept cutting it down until I could fit it close enough on the frame. So that was the beginning. Not too hard. If you can color within the lines, I think you can make a template for your frame or anything really. So this was what came of that, as you can see. This fits pretty nice. You definitely want to take your time with this. You want it to fit snug. You want a tight fit up, because the better the fit on your template, the better you're going to be able to transfer that over to your steel plate. And it's a lot easier to cut this cardboard with scissors than it is to try to trim that metal down. So, you know, save time where you can. This now fits square in the corner down here. Fits nice all the way back. Like I said, I want to bring it up to about just past where the original frame went from. It went boxed into here, and then it kind of bent in on itself. But I'm going to go ahead and just keep that box frame, and I'm going to bring it all the way up to, oh, I don't know, not quite here, about probably just a couple inches behind this, because I'll carry on down this part of the frame where there's some other issues. And I think I'm going to redo the shock mount here because of how it's gone and rotted out on the back side. So I'll leave myself a square line. So this is just a template, but I want it to be probably a square cut. So I'll come back and probably make it more like this. So it's squared up with the frame at least. So that was the refined template, okay? And then last, I transferred that over to a better, cleaner, flatter piece of cardboard. So this stuff's a little bit more what I'm looking for when I make templates. Ideally, I like to use something that's thin and dense, like a cereal box, but I didn't have a cereal box this big. Not even a super king size family pack would be big enough to do this. So I ended up getting this piece of cardboard and transferring this over, and now look at that. That is nice, real nice. I had it taped on here and taped on here, so those lines match right up. And look at that thing, isn't that great? That's a good fit. So I'll be able to, this is going to be the one I'm going to transfer over to my steel plate. So that's the template. Not too hard, like I said. Better to spend time making this right, and you'll get a result like this. So that's going to get put somewhere careful, so I can do that next. I guess one other little trick that you can do is to take a paint marker, or you could take some crayon, or like this is just a piece of charcoal from a fire that I had. And this helped me initially when I was doing the template. I rubbed some charcoal dust along the frame, right? And then I pushed the cardboard up against it, and just to have like a transfer line to get a rough cut. That really helped me to get that settled in. I also had a mallet somewhere that I can't seem to find right now. Here it is. There it is. That's another thing. You can also just hold the cardboard up to it. And you can, here, I'll show you. You can take this, right, and hit it. And you're going to leave yourself a witness mark that way too. So, there's all different ways you can do it. But the end result is you just want a nice, well-fitting template to weld in place. I spent a whole bunch of time today outside, as you saw, cleaning up the frame. It was a nice day out. I took a grinder and I got the extra metal and some of that weld that was built up in there. I ground that down. The wire brush, to my surprise, did a heck of a good job. Once the needle scaling was done, the wire brush was a lot more effective. It did get down pretty close into all the pitting. So, you know, sandblasting would have been the ultimate finish, but really happy with how the scaler and the wire wheel turned out. My next thing, since there's not a lot of rust left, I'm going to go ahead and use the phosphoric acid. So this is the stuff that I've used in the past. Clean strip, got it at Home Depot. It's prep etched for metal. It says right on there, removes rust from metal surfaces and inhibits rust, flash rust. You know, of course, you can also etch concrete, masonry, blah, blah, blah. The biggest thing, obviously, I'm just using it to strip the rust. And it says it's going to treat the metal, including galvanized and aluminum. How about that? For better adhesion. So on the back, it tells you right here, you can, you know, get it clean and get the loose rust knocked down first. Well, we went a little beyond that. It's definitely knocked down. You know, no oil or grease. Again, it's gone. It's clean. You're just gonna brush this on, spray it on, or whatever. It's an acid. If you drop it on your concrete, it's gonna sizzle. It's not kidding around. It'll drip on there and it'll etch it. So I've just got a little plastic container and just a cheap brush. I'm just brushing this on because I'm doing it in my garage right now. I've got an old piece of cardboard underneath it to kind of absorb the drips, and I'm just brushing this on the frame, and that's going to kind of soak in to all the little nooks and crannies, and it's going to dissolve and convert that rust that's left over so that it's treated. And that's going to finish the rust removal of this project here. You can let this sit on, it even says the frame, you know, overnight. It's going to drip off and dry, and that's going to leave a rust inhibited layer. So I'm just going to do the area I'm working on right now because I want to close this off real soon. Just going to brush it on real thick on all surfaces where I'm going to close this in. I've already done some of it already, as you can see. Trying not to get it on myself. And it's already kind of like white sizzling, you know? That means it's working. And I'm going to just finish this off like this. And I'll come check it out tomorrow and see how I did. So I want to start welding those patches in and getting this side finished up. What's really nice too is I can get like between here, the frame and the cab, like I really don't want to pull that off, but I did kind of scrub it down with a wire brush by hand, and I've blown it off a few times just to clean it out in there. So this can kind of finish the job. At least I can rub it down in there, let it do its magic. Here we are next day. As you can see, that phosphoric acid treatment has converted the rust over. It's almost like a bluish gray color now. I played around a little bit. I put some on the diff where I'd been working some of that rust off. But yeah, if you look at the difference here, to where, you know, that's cleaned down mostly to the metal. It's just got some surface dust and rust on it. Then after that stuff is soaked, look at that. So now, the next step they recommend you can rinse it down and then, or just kind of like damp sponge it just to get any residual stuff off of it. And let that dry and it should be ready to go. So I'm just going to rinse it and blow it down, and then I'll start working on my metal patching that I can get in there, because that's right in there I was talking about. That's where I need to patch that side plate in. So I'll get that done, and then the next couple of patches to start closing this up.